How to master your emotions at all times. A complete guide to emotional intelligence, resilience, and inner peace. Dedication. To every person who has ever felt overwhelmed by their emotions and wondered if things could ever be different, they can. And this book is proof. Forward emotions are the language of the human soul. They color every thought we think, every decision we make, and every relationship we build. Yet, for most of us, our emotions were never something we were formally taught to understand or manage. We were told to be strong, to calm down, to stop overreacting, but nobody showed us how. This book exists to change that. What you hold in your hands is not a collection of feel-good platitudes or surface-level advice. It is a structured, practical, deeply researched guide to developing one of the most powerful skills a human being can possess: emotional mastery. The ability to feel everything life throws at you. The joy, the grief, the anger, the fear, and still remain grounded, clear-headed, and purposeful. Mastering your emotions does not mean suppressing them. It does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. In fact, it means the complete opposite. It means developing such an intimate understanding of your inner world that no feeling can hijack your life without your permission. It means becoming the author of your own story, rather than a character tossed about by the plot. This guide was written for anyone who has ever exploded in anger and immediately regretted it, for anyone who has lost sleep to anxiety that never seemed to switch off, for anyone who has sunk into sadness without knowing why, or felt such intense joy that they feared it couldn't last. In other words, it was written for all of us. You are about to begin a journey that will transform the way you experience yourself, your relationships, and the world. It will not always be easy. Real growth rarely is. But every page you turn brings you one step closer to the version of yourself who no longer runs from their emotions, but leads with them. Welcome to the most important work you will ever do. Introduction: The Emotional Revolution. Picture this. It's a Tuesday morning. You're running late for work, spill coffee on your shirt, and receive a terse message from your manager before you've even left the house. By the time you sit down at your desk, your jaw is clenched, your heart is racing, and the smallest inconvenience feels like an unforgivable insult. The day spirals. You snap at a colleague. You make an error you'd never normally make. You arrive home exhausted, not from the work, but from yourself. Now picture a different version of that same Tuesday. Same spilled coffee, same terse message. But this time, something is different inside you. You notice the frustration, acknowledge it, and make a conscious choice about how to respond. You take a breath. You manage the moment. And the rest of your day, while imperfect, doesn't unravel. What changed? Not the circumstances. You did. That is the power of emotional mastery, and it is available to every single human being on the planet, regardless of upbringing, personality, or past experience. The brain is not fixed. Emotional patterns are not destiny. With the right understanding and consistent practice, anyone can learn to navigate their inner world with skill, grace, and confidence. This book is structured in 3 broad arcs. The first arc, chapters 1 through 3, is about understanding. Before we can master our emotions, we need to know what they are, where they come from, and why they behave the way they do. The second arc, chapters 4 through 8, is about skill building. We'll explore practical techniques for regulating specific emotions like anger, fear, and sadness. The third arc, chapters 9 through 12, is about integration. We'll look at how emotional mastery transforms your relationships, your work, and your sense of self. Each chapter ends with a set of exercises and reflection questions. These are not optional extras. They are the engine of transformation. Reading about emotional mastery will plant seeds. Practicing it will make them grow. Your emotions are not your enemy. They never were. They are your greatest source of information, connection, and vitality. The goal of this book is not to make you less emotional, but to make you more powerfully, intentionally, beautifully human. Let's begin. Part 1. Understanding the emotional landscape. Chapter 1. What are emotions, really? Most people, if asked to define an emotion, would struggle. We know emotions from the inside, the flutter of excitement, the weight of dread, the sharp sting of embarrassment. But few of us have ever stopped to ask, what exactly is happening when I feel something? The answer is far more fascinating than most people realize. Emotions as information systems. Emotions are not random noise generated by a temperamental brain. They are sophisticated information systems shaped by millions of years of evolution designed to help us survive, connect, and thrive. Every emotion carries a message. Fear says, there may be danger ahead, be alert. Anger says, something important to you has been violated, take action. Grief says, you have experienced a significant loss, pause, process, and reorganize your world. The problem is not that we have emotions. The problem is that most of us have never learned to listen to them intelligently. Instead of receiving the message, we either amplify the emotion until it takes over completely, or we shut it down entirely. Neither approach serves us well. Emotional mastery begins with a radical reframe. Your emotions are not problems to be solved. They are signals to be decoded. The 3 layers of an emotion. Every emotional experience has 3 distinct layers that operate simultaneously. The first is the physiological layer, the raw physical sensations in your body. When you're anxious, your heart rate increases, your muscles tighten, your breathing becomes shallow. When you're joyful, your chest feels open, your movements become lighter, your face naturally relaxes into a smile. These bodily changes are not metaphors. They are real, measurable events orchestrated by your autonomic nervous system. The second is the cognitive layer. The thoughts, interpretations, and stories your mind constructs around the physical sensations. 2 people can have identical physiological responses to the same event and create completely different emotional experiences based on how they interpret what is happening. One person's racing heart before a presentation is crippling anxiety. Another's is exciting adrenaline. Same body, different story, profoundly different experience. The third is the behavioral layer, the impulses and actions that flow from the first 2. Anger prompts aggression. Fear prompts avoidance. Joy prompts approach and connection. These behavioral urges evolved for a reason, but in the complex social world we now inhabit, acting on every emotional impulse would be catastrophic. Emotional mastery is largely about developing the pause between impulse and action. Primary and secondary emotions. Psychologists distinguish between primary emotions, the basic, universal feelings that appear cross-culturally and emerge early in human development, and secondary emotions, which are emotional responses to our initial feelings. Primary emotions include joy, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, and surprise. These are fast, instinctive, and often involuntary. They arise before the thinking mind has time to weigh in. Secondary emotions are more complex. Shame, guilt, jealousy, pride, embarrassment, and contempt are all secondary emotions. They require self-awareness and social comparison. Interestingly, secondary emotions can also arise in response to primary ones. Feeling ashamed of being angry or frightened by your own sadness. adds a layer of suffering that compounds the original experience. One of the most liberating discoveries in emotional intelligence research is that you can feel a secondary emotion about a primary one and recognize both for what they are. You can say, "I'm feeling angry right now, and I'm also noticing some shame about being angry." And that dual awareness alone begins to diffuse both. The myth of negative emotions. Our culture has a problematic habit of labeling emotions as either positive or negative. Joy, gratitude, and excitement are positive. Anger, fear, and sadness are negative. This binary is dangerously misleading. All emotions are neutral in themselves. What makes an emotion functional or dysfunctional is not the emotion itself, but the relationship we have with it and how we choose to act in its presence. Anger, when expressed constructively, can fuel extraordinary acts of justice and positive change. Fear, when listened to wisely, can save your life. Even grief, perhaps the emotion we most wish to avoid, carries within it the seeds of profound transformation, because grief is simply love with nowhere to go. When you stop fighting your so-called negative emotions and start relating to all of them with curiosity and respect, something remarkable happens. They lose their power to overwhelm you because they no longer have to fight to be heard. Reflection exercise. Think of an emotion you frequently judge as negative. What message might it be trying to send you? What would it look like to receive that message with curiosity rather than resistance? Chapter 2. The Science of Feeling. To master your emotions, it helps enormously to understand the machinery behind them. You do not need a neuroscience degree, but a working knowledge of what is happening in your brain and body when emotions arise will give you a profound advantage. Understanding the why makes the how infinitely more intuitive. The brain's emotional architecture. The human brain can be loosely understood as operating on two levels: the ancient, fast, reactive emotional system and the newer, slower, more rational prefrontal cortex. These two systems are in constant dialogue, and the quality of your emotional life depends largely on how well they communicate. Deep within the brain lies the amygdala, a small, almond-shaped structure that acts as your brain's threat detection system. The amygdala is extraordinarily fast. It processes incoming information before the thinking, rational part of your brain even knows what's happening. When the amygdala perceives a threat, whether real or imagined, it triggers a cascade of physiological reactions designed to prepare you for survival: fight, flee, or freeze. This response was absolutely brilliant for our ancestors navigating predator-filled landscapes. It is considerably less helpful when the threat is an email from your boss or an argument with your partner. The amygdala doesn't distinguish between a tiger and a tense conversation. It reacts to both with the same urgency. This is what researchers call an amygdala hijack. A moment when the emotional brain takes complete control of your responses, effectively bypassing the rational prefrontal cortex. If you've ever said something in the heat of the moment that you deeply regretted, you've experienced an amygdala hijack firsthand. The stress response system. When the amygdala fires, the body releases a flood of stress hormones, primarily cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones are functional in short bursts. They sharpen focus, increase physical strength, and prepare the body for action. But sustained emotional stress, the kind that comes from chronic anxiety, unresolved conflict, or constant rumination, keeps these hormones elevated at dangerous levels. Chronically elevated cortisol has been linked to impaired memory, weakened immunity, disrupted sleep, and a range of cardiovascular problems. When we talk about emotional health, we are not speaking metaphorically. The state of your emotional life has profound, measurable effects on your physical body. The good news is that this works in both directions. Just as negative emotional patterns create real physiological damage, positive emotional practices create real physiological healing. Meditation reduces cortisol. Gratitude increases serotonin. Deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural rest and restore mode. Emotional mastery is, in the most literal sense, a health practice. Neuroplasticity. You can rewire your brain. For most of the 20th century, scientists believed that the adult brain was essentially fixed, that the neural pathways we developed in childhood were, for better or worse, permanent. We now know this is completely wrong. The brain exhibits a remarkable property called neuroplasticity, the ability to form new neural connections throughout life in response to learning, experience, and deliberate practice. Every time you choose a different response to an emotional trigger, every time you pause instead of reacting, breathe instead of exploding, seek curiosity instead of judgment, you are literally rewiring your brain. The neural circuits that govern habitual emotional reactions follow the principle of neurons that fire together, wire together. Old emotional patterns become deeply grooved pathways in the brain, but new patterns can be grooved just as deeply, given enough repetition and intention. This is not wishful thinking. It is established neuroscience, and it is the foundation upon which this entire book rests. You are not your current emotional patterns. You are the architect of your future ones. The window of tolerance. One of the most useful concepts in emotional regulation comes from trauma research, the window of tolerance. This refers to an optimal zone of emotional arousal within which you can function effectively. When you're within your window, you can feel your emotions, think clearly, and respond thoughtfully. When you're pushed outside your window by overwhelming stress, trauma, or intense emotion, you either become hyper-aroused, flooded, panicked, explosive, or hypo-aroused, numb, disconnected, shut down. Both states impair your ability to think, connect, and make good decisions. The goal of emotional mastery is not to eliminate emotional arousal, but to widen your window of tolerance so that you can remain present and functional across a much broader range of emotional intensity. This happens through the consistent practice of the techniques you'll encounter in the chapters ahead. Reflection exercise. Think of a recent moment when you felt hijacked by an emotion. What triggered it? What happened in your body? What did you do? What would you have preferred to do? Begin to build your own map of your amygdala triggers. Chapter 3. Triggers, patterns, and emotional history. Nobody arrives at adulthood as a blank slate. Every one of us carries the imprint of our past, the families we were raised in, the experiences that shaped us, the lessons, spoken and unspoken, we absorbed about what emotions are acceptable, what they mean, and how they should be handled. Understanding your emotional history is not about dwelling in the past. It is about recognizing the invisible scripts that are currently running your life, so that you can decide consciously and deliberately which scripts to keep and which to rewrite. What is an emotional trigger? An emotional trigger is any stimulus, a word, a tone of voice, a facial expression, a situation, a sensory input that activates an intense emotional response that seems disproportionate to the present circumstances. The key phrase there is disproportionate to the present circumstances. When a reaction feels bigger than the situation warrants, the past is almost certainly involved. Emotional triggers are not signs of weakness. They are simply places where old wounds are still tender. The boss who dismisses your idea doesn't just frustrate you. They remind your nervous system of every time you were told you weren't good enough. Your partner's silence doesn't just feel uncomfortable. It activates memories of being abandoned or ignored. The situation is present. The emotion is historical. This doesn't mean your triggers are imaginary or unjustified. It means they carry more information than the present moment alone can explain. Learning to recognize your triggers and to trace them back to their original source is one of the most powerful acts of self-knowledge you can undertake. Core emotional beliefs. Beneath most chronic emotional patterns lies a core belief, a deep, often unconscious conviction about yourself, others, or the world. These beliefs typically form in childhood in response to formative experiences, and they shape every emotional interaction we have for the rest of our lives unless we examine them. Common core emotional beliefs include: I am not good enough. I am not safe. I am not lovable. The world is a dangerous place. If I show vulnerability, I will be hurt. And my needs don't matter. None of these beliefs are facts. They are interpretations that became lodged in the nervous system at a time when you lacked the resources to process them any other way. The process of identifying and updating core beliefs is not quick or painless, but it is perhaps the single most transformative work you can do in the domain of emotional mastery. When the belief changes, the trigger loses its power. The emotion still arises, but it no longer hijacks you. The 4 emotional coping styles. Research in developmental psychology has identified 4 primary styles that people develop for coping with difficult emotions, often formed in the context of early relationships. The first is suppression, the habit of pushing emotions down before they surface fully. Suppressors tend to seem calm and controlled on the outside while carrying significant emotional tension internally. They often experience psychosomatic symptoms: headaches, digestive issues, chronic muscle tension, the body's way of expressing what the mind refuses to feel. The second is rumination, the habit of dwelling on emotional experiences, replaying them repeatedly without reaching resolution. Ruminators tend to prolong and intensify their emotional experiences and are at heightened risk for depression and anxiety. The third is venting, the habit of expressing emotions freely and immediately without reflection. While venting can feel cathartic in the short term, research consistently shows that it tends to amplify rather than reduce emotional intensity, particularly in the case of anger. The fourth is regulation, the learned ability to acknowledge emotions fully, understand their source, and consciously choose how to respond to them. This is the goal. It is also, crucially, a skill that can be learned by anyone, regardless of which other style they have defaulted to in the past. Breaking the pattern cycle. Emotional patterns tend to follow a predictable cycle: trigger, interpretation, emotion, behavior, consequence. Most people only notice the emotion and the behavior. They miss the crucial interpretation step in the middle, where the real leverage lies. By learning to catch the interpretations, the stories we unconsciously tell ourselves about what a situation means, we gain access to a point in the cycle where we can genuinely intervene. The event happens, we interpret it, we feel the emotion, then we choose our response. Emotional mastery is fundamentally the practice of becoming skilled at the interpretation and choice steps so that the events of life no longer dictate your inner experience. Reflection. Exercise. Identify one emotional trigger that appears regularly in your life. Write down the trigger, the emotion it produces, the story you tell yourself about it, and a possible alternative interpretation. Notice if the alternative interpretation changes the intensity of the emotion. Part 2. Building the Skills of Emotional Mastery. Chapter 4. Mindfulness. The foundation of emotional intelligence. If there is one skill that underlies all others in this book, it is mindfulness. Not the trendy, commercialized version of mindfulness that promises instant stress relief, but the genuine practice of present moment awareness. the ability to observe your own thoughts, feelings, and sensations with clarity and without judgment. Mindfulness is the foundation of emotional mastery because you cannot regulate what you cannot observe. Most of our emotional reactions happen in the space between perception and awareness. They're already underway by the time we notice them. The practice of mindfulness gradually closes that gap. It trains you to notice the first stirrings of an emotion before it has gathered enough momentum to sweep you away. What mindfulness actually means. At its core, mindfulness means paying attention to the present moment on purpose, with an attitude of openness and non-judgment. This sounds deceptively simple. In practice, it is one of the most challenging habits the human mind can develop, because the mind's default mode is anything but present. Research suggests that the average person spends nearly half their waking hours thinking about something other than what they are actually doing. We replay past conversations, rehearse future ones, construct elaborate narratives about what might go wrong, and in doing so, miss the only moment in which life is actually happening right now. Mindfulness practice gradually reverses this tendency. Over time and with consistent practice, the mind becomes more anchored in the present. The gap between stimulus and response widens, and in that widened gap lies the freedom to choose. The observer self. One of mindfulness's most powerful gifts is access to what psychologists call the observer self, a part of your consciousness that can watch your thoughts and feelings without being identical to them. Most of us are completely merged with our inner experience. We don't have anger, we are angry. We don't have anxious thoughts, we are consumed by anxiety. The observer self offers a different relationship. When you develop the capacity to step back and notice, I am observing an angry thought, or I am watching a wave of sadness move through me, something remarkable happens. The emotion loses its absolute authority over your experience. You remain aware of it. You feel it fully, but you are no longer at its mercy. This is not dissociation. You are not numbing yourself or detaching from reality. You are becoming simultaneously more present to your experience and more spacious around it. This is the paradox at the heart of mindfulness. By observing your emotions rather than becoming them, you actually feel them more completely and process them more quickly. 5 core mindfulness practices. The first practice is formal sitting meditation. Even 10 minutes daily of sitting quietly, following the breath, and returning your attention every time it wanders builds the foundational muscle of mental attention. Start small. Consistency matters far more than duration. The second is body scanning. Once or twice a day, take a few minutes to bring awareness systematically to different parts of your body, from feet to crown. Notice sensations without trying to change them. This practice develops somatic awareness, the ability to read your body's emotional signals before they reach conscious thought. The third is the mindful pause. Before responding to any emotionally charged situation, take 3 conscious breaths. This single habit, practiced consistently, can transform your emotional life. The pause interrupts the automatic reaction cycle and creates the space for intentional choice. The fourth is labeling. When you notice an emotion arising, name it silently to yourself. There is fear. This is frustration. I'm noticing sadness. Research in effective neuroscience has shown that simply naming an emotion reduces its intensity by activating the prefrontal cortex and reducing amygdala activity. Naming is not avoiding. Naming is a form of mastery. The fifth is mindful listening. In conversations, particularly emotionally charged ones, practice listening fully, not planning your response, not interpreting what you're hearing through your own filters, but genuinely receiving what the other person is communicating. Mindful listening transforms relationships. because it gives both people the experience of being truly heard. Practice exercise. Commit to 10 minutes of breath-focused meditation for the next 30 days. At the end of each session, briefly note in a journal what emotional state you brought into the practice and how it shifted, if at all. Over time, you will begin to see your own patterns with new clarity. Chapter 5. The Art of Emotional Regulation. Emotional regulation is not the same as emotional suppression. It bears repeating because the confusion between the two is responsible for an enormous amount of unnecessary suffering. Suppression means pushing emotions down without processing them. Regulation means consciously working with emotions so they can be felt fully and released gracefully. Think of emotional regulation as the difference between a wild river and a masterfully engineered waterway. The water, the emotion, flows in both cases. But with skillful channeling, it becomes a source of power and nourishment rather than a force of destruction. The RAIN technique. One of the most elegant and effective tools for in-the-moment emotional regulation is the RAIN technique, drawn from mindfulness and therapeutic practice. RAIN stands for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. Recognize means noticing and naming what is happening internally. I am feeling overwhelmed right now. Simple but profoundly powerful. Most emotional suffering is amplified by our refusal to acknowledge what we're actually feeling. Allow means giving the emotion permission to exist without fighting it. This runs counter to our instincts. When we feel something painful, our first impulse is to make it stop. But resistance, paradoxically, intensifies and prolongs emotional pain. The phrase, "what you resist persists," is not folk wisdom. It is grounded in the psychology of emotional processing. When you allow an emotion without resistance, it typically peaks and then naturally subsides, often in a matter of minutes. Investigate means getting curious about the emotion. Where do you feel it in your body? What does it feel like physically? Is it heavy or light, tight or open, hot or cold? What thought or belief is associated with it? What is the emotion trying to protect you from? Investigation shifts you from reacting to exploring, from victim to scientist. Nurture means responding to yourself with the same compassion you would offer a dear friend who was struggling. Self-compassion is not self-indulgence. It is the recognition that suffering is a part of human experience, that you deserve kindness in difficult moments, and that treating yourself harshly in the name of emotional control only adds a second layer of pain. The physiology of regulation. Breathing. Your breath is the only autonomic function you can consciously control, which makes it an extraordinary gateway to your nervous system. When you are emotionally activated, your breathing becomes fast and shallow, feeding the stress response. When you consciously slow and deepen your breath, you directly activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the physiological brake pedal on your stress response. Box breathing is a particularly powerful regulation technique. Inhale slowly for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale slowly for 4, hold for 4. Repeat for 4 cycles. This simple practice has been shown to reduce cortisol, lower heart rate, and restore cognitive clarity within minutes. It is used by military special forces, emergency surgeons, and professional athletes for precisely this reason. The physiological sigh, 2 quick inhales through the nose followed by a long, slow exhale through the mouth, is the fastest known method for reducing acute physiological arousal. It's something the human body does spontaneously when overwhelmed, and doing it deliberately has been shown to rapidly restore emotional equilibrium. Cognitive reappraisal. One of the most studied and effective techniques in emotion regulation research is cognitive reappraisal, the deliberate reinterpretation of a situation or experience to change its emotional impact. This is not the toxic positivity of "just look on the bright side." It is the thoughtful recognition that most situations can be understood through multiple frames, and that the frame we choose shapes the emotion we feel. A colleague's harsh feedback is devastating if you interpret it as a personal attack, and potentially energizing if you interpret it as useful information for growth. Being stuck in traffic is infuriating if you're focused on what you're missing, and a rare opportunity for quiet contemplation if you reframe it as unexpected solitude. The traffic doesn't change. Your emotional experience of it transforms entirely. Reappraisal requires practice and works best when it is genuinely believed rather than forced. The goal is not to deceive yourself into false positivity, but to expand your interpretive repertoire, to develop the habit of asking, "Is there another way to see this?" before settling into the most painful interpretation. Emotional first aid kit. Every person who is committed to emotional mastery needs a personalized toolkit of rapid regulation strategies, proven techniques they can reach for when emotional intensity makes sophisticated practices difficult. Your toolkit might include physical movement, a brisk walk, jumping jacks, shaking the body, cold water on the wrists or face, contact with nature, sensory grounding, naming 5 things you can see, 4 you can hear, 3 you can touch. Music that shifts your emotional state. Reaching out to a trusted person, journaling, or any practice that reliably brings you back to your body and the present moment. Build your toolkit before you need it. Know your strategies. Practice them when you are calm so that they are accessible when you are not. Practice exercise. Apply the RAIN technique to the next difficult emotion you experience. Afterwards, write a brief note about what you discovered during the investigation step. Over time, these notes will reveal patterns and insights that accelerate your growth. Chapter 6. Mastering anger. Anger is perhaps the most misunderstood emotion in the human experience. It is condemned in spiritual traditions as a vice to be eradicated, celebrated in cultural narratives as a sign of strength and authenticity, and feared in social contexts as something too dangerous to express. All of these perspectives miss the deeper truth about anger, which is this: anger is one of the most important signals in your emotional repertoire, and it deserves to be treated with both respect and skill. Understanding anger's purpose. Anger evolved as a protection mechanism. It arises when something we care about, our safety, our boundaries, our values, our loved ones, is threatened or violated. This is why people who have lost the ability to feel anger are not more enlightened, they are more vulnerable. Without anger, there is no impetus to defend what matters, to resist injustice, or to maintain healthy boundaries in relationships. The problem is not anger itself, but what we do with it. Chronic, explosive anger damages every relationship it touches and has severe consequences for physical health, including elevated blood pressure, increased risk of heart disease, and a progressively shorter fuse. Chronically suppressed anger causes different but equally serious damage: depression, passive aggression, resentment, and physical illness. Mastering anger means learning to feel it fully, understand its message, and express or act on it in ways that serve your highest intentions rather than your most reactive impulses. The pause. Your single most important anger tool. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. For most people, in the context of anger, that space is microscopically small. The practice of building that space, deliberately, consistently, is the foundation of anger mastery. When you feel anger rising, your primary task is not to manage it or express it or understand it. Your primary task is simply to pause. Put time between the trigger and your response. Leave the room if necessary. Take a walk. count to 10 or to 100. Do whatever it takes to interrupt the automatic reaction long enough for your prefrontal cortex to come back online. Research shows that the acute physiological component of the anger response typically peaks and begins to subside within 90 seconds, provided it is not reinforced by continued angry thinking. 90 seconds is not very long. The challenge is that our minds tend to replay and amplify the triggering event, which continually reignites the physiological response. The pause, combined with redirection of attention, breaks this cycle. Anger as a messenger. What is it protecting? Beneath anger, there is almost always something softer and more vulnerable. Hurt, fear, grief, shame, or a sense of powerlessness. Anger arises to protect us from having to feel those more tender, exposed emotions. This is why getting to the bottom of your anger requires courage. It means looking beneath the hard shell of the rage to find the soft creature inside. When someone important to you says something dismissive and you feel fury rising, ask yourself, what is this anger protecting? Often you'll find hurt, the pain of not feeling valued, or fear, the worry that their opinion reflects some truth about your worth. The anger is not the real story, it's the cover story. And when you can access and express the real story, I felt hurt when you dismissed my idea, not only do you become easier for others to connect with, but the anger itself tends to dissipate. Constructive anger. Expression. When it is appropriate to express anger, and sometimes it absolutely is, there are constructive and destructive ways to do it. Destructive expression includes yelling, name-calling, physical aggression, humiliation, contempt, and stonewalling. These behaviors reliably escalate conflict, damage relationships, and make resolution less likely. Constructive expression uses clear, direct, first-person language focused on your experience rather than judgments of the other person. I felt disrespected when, rather than "you always" or "you never," it specifies what happened and why it mattered rather than attacking the person's character. It seeks resolution rather than victory. This kind of anger expression requires practice, and it requires that you have completed enough internal processing through the pause, through the physiological regulation techniques, that you can speak from your values rather than your reactivity. Reflection exercise. Think of a recurring anger pattern in your life. Ask yourself, what is this anger actually protecting? What is the more vulnerable feeling beneath it? What would happen if you expressed that underlying feeling instead of the anger? Chapter 7. Overcoming fear and anxiety. Fear is the most primal emotion in the human repertoire. It predates language, predates culture, predates everything that makes us distinctly human. In its original evolutionary context, fear was simple and magnificent. An immediate whole-body alarm system that mobilized survival resources in the presence of mortal danger. In the modern world, fear has become considerably more complicated. We still have the same ancient alarm system, but it now fires in response to performance reviews, social rejection, uncertainty about the future, and the relentless stream of alarming information delivered by our phones and screens. The mechanism is the same. The threats are different, and our inability to distinguish between the two lies at the heart of the anxiety epidemic. Fear versus anxiety. An important distinction. Fear and anxiety, while closely related, are meaningfully different. Fear is a response to a specific, identifiable, present threat. Anxiety is a response to a perceived, imagined, or diffuse future threat. Fear says, "There is danger right now." Anxiety says, "There might be danger later." Both are valid responses in the right circumstances. Fear keeps you safe in genuinely dangerous situations. Anticipatory anxiety, in moderate doses, helps you prepare for challenges and avoid unnecessary risk. The problem arises when anxiety becomes chronic, disproportionate, and generalized, when it fires constantly in the absence of real threat and begins to narrow your life rather than protect it. The anxiety maintenance cycle. Anxiety perpetuates itself through a self-reinforcing cycle. A trigger thought or situation produces uncomfortable physical sensations. The person interprets these sensations as evidence of danger. My racing heart means something is seriously wrong. This interpretation amplifies the anxiety. The person then avoids whatever triggered the anxiety. The avoidance provides short-term relief, but strengthens the anxiety long-term because the person never has the experience of facing the feared situation and surviving it. The next time the trigger appears, the anxiety is even more intense. Breaking the anxiety maintenance cycle requires intervention at 2 points. The interpretation of physical sensations, learning to recognize them as the benign products of a sensitized nervous system rather than evidence of danger, and the avoidance behavior, gradually, compassionately, and systematically facing rather than fleeing feared situations. Working with worry. Worry is the cognitive face of anxiety. The repetitive, intrusive thought loops that replay feared scenarios without generating genuine problem solving. Understanding the difference between productive and unproductive worry is transformative. Productive worry sounds like, I'm concerned about this presentation. Let me identify the specific risks and prepare for them. It leads to concrete action and resolution. Unproductive worry sounds like, what if everything goes wrong? What if I embarrass myself? What if they all think I'm incompetent? It loops endlessly without leading anywhere except deeper anxiety. A powerful technique for interrupting unproductive worry is scheduled worry time. Set aside 15 minutes at a specific time each day as your designated worry period. When worry arises outside that time, gently redirect it. I'll think about that during worry time. During the scheduled period, write down all current worries, distinguish which are actionable, create simple action steps for those that are, and deliberately let go of those that are not. This practice slowly but surely reduces the amount of time anxiety occupies in your daily life. Courage is not the absence of fear. One of the most important things to understand about mastering fear is that the goal is not to eliminate it. The goal is to develop a different relationship with it. One in which fear is neither denied nor obeyed, but acknowledged and moved through. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is taking action in the presence of fear because something matters more to you than your own comfort. Every significant thing you have ever achieved in your life required you to act in the presence of some degree of fear. Every time you did, your window of tolerance widened a little more. Your evidence base for your own capability grew a little stronger. The person who masters their fear is not the person who stops feeling it. It is the person who, feeling it fully and honestly, takes the next step anyway. Practice exercise. Identify one thing you have been avoiding because of anxiety or fear. Create a gentle exposure ladder, a series of small, progressively more challenging steps toward facing it. Begin with the easiest step this week. Notice what happens when you survive it. Chapter 8. Walking through sadness and grief. Of all the emotions we encounter on the path to emotional mastery, sadness and grief are perhaps the ones most people would prefer to bypass entirely. We live in a culture that is deeply uncomfortable with sadness, that equates it with weakness, pathologizes normal grief, and offers endless strategies for distracting ourselves from its presence. And yet sadness and grief are among the most profound and ultimately healing emotions in the human experience when we allow them to move through us rather than around us. They are the heart's way of honoring what matters. They are, at their deepest level, a form of love. The purpose of sadness. Sadness arises in response to loss. The loss of a relationship, an opportunity, a version of yourself, a belief about how life was supposed to go, or sometimes simply the beauty of a passing moment. Its biological purpose is to signal that something significant has changed, to slow you down, to prompt reflection and inward turning, and ultimately to facilitate adaptation to a new reality. When it is honored, sadness performs this function exquisitely. People who allow themselves to grieve fully consistently report that their grief, though intensely painful, has a quality of aliveness and depth that carries them through to genuine healing and often unexpected growth. When sadness is denied, resisted, or prematurely resolved through distraction or forced positivity, it tends to crystallize into something more chronic and harder to move through. Depression, which is often described clinically as anger turned inward, or more precisely as sadness that has been frozen rather than felt. The stages of grief. Grief does not follow a linear path. While popular psychology has often presented grief as a series of orderly stages that conclude neatly with acceptance, the reality of grief is considerably more organic, non-linear, and individual. Grief circles and spirals. It resurfaces unexpectedly. It can feel complete, and then ambush you months later in the aisle of a supermarket when a song plays. What is true for virtually everyone who moves through grief authentically is this: the only way out is through. The only way to genuinely process grief is to feel it, to make time and space for it, to express it through tears, through writing, through conversation, through ritual, and to allow it to evolve at its own pace. There is no getting over a significant loss. There is only learning to carry it differently, incorporating it into the landscape of your life in a way that allows you to continue fully living while honoring everything that was lost. Self-compassion in sadness. When you are sad, the most counterproductive thing you can do is add judgment on top of the sadness. I shouldn't feel this way. Others have it so much worse. I need to pull myself together. These are all forms of self-attack that compound the suffering without facilitating processing. Self-compassion. Treating yourself with the warmth, understanding, and patience you would offer a dear friend is not only the kinder response to your own sadness, it is the more effective one. Research by psychologist Kristin Neff and others has consistently shown that self-compassionate individuals recover from setbacks and losses more quickly and more completely than those who engage in harsh self-judgment or self-pity. Allowing yourself to say, "This is genuinely hard, and I deserve to be gentle with myself right now," is not weakness. It is wisdom. Reflection. Exercise. Think of a loss, large or small, that you may have moved past without fully processing. Give yourself permission to be with whatever is still present around that loss. Write a letter to what was lost, saying whatever remains unsaid. Then write a letter to yourself from the perspective of a deeply loving, wise friend responding to your grief. Part 3. Integration. Living with emotional mastery. Chapter 9. Harnessing the power of positive emotions. Emotional mastery is not only about navigating the difficult terrain of challenging emotions. It is equally about cultivating, sustaining, and expanding positive emotional states. Not as a form of denial or escapism, but as a genuine foundation for well-being, resilience, and effective living. Positive psychology research over the past 3 decades has transformed our understanding of what positive emotions actually do and the answer goes far beyond simply feeling good. The broaden and build theory psychologist Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory offers a compelling account of why positive emotions matter so much. While negative emotions narrow our attention and cognition, preparing us to respond to specific threats, positive emotions broaden our awareness, expand our thinking, and build lasting personal resources. Joy fosters creativity and play. Curiosity drives exploration and learning. Love and warmth build social bonds and support networks. Serenity creates the internal space for integration and gratitude. Each positive emotional experience, even a brief one, contributes to the gradual construction of a richer, more resilient version of yourself. Positive emotions also directly counteract the physiological effects of negative emotional arousal, a phenomenon known as the undoing effect. People who experience positive emotions during or after stressful events literally recover their physiological baseline faster than those who don't. This means cultivating positive emotions is not a luxury or an indulgence. It is a scientifically validated strategy for physical and emotional health. Gratitude, the master positive emotion. Of all the positive emotions researched, gratitude appears to have the broadest and deepest positive effects on well-being. People who regularly practice gratitude report higher levels of life satisfaction, greater happiness, stronger relationships, better sleep, and greater resilience in adversity. Gratitude has been shown to increase serotonin and dopamine, reduce inflammatory markers, and physically alter the structure of the brain over time. The key word is practice. Gratitude is not a passive feeling that arises when things go well. It is an active orientation, a deliberate choice to notice and appreciate what is present rather than fixating on what is absent. This is a skill, and like all skills, it strengthens with deliberate practice. A simple but profoundly effective gratitude practice. Each evening, write down 3 specific things that happened during the day for which you are genuinely grateful. The specificity is important. I am grateful for the sound of rain on the window this morning has far more impact than I am grateful for nature. Specificity engages genuine feeling rather than conceptual appreciation, and it is the feeling that produces the neurological benefits. Joy, wonder, and awe. Joy is often treated as a byproduct of good circumstances, rather than something we can cultivate intentionally. The truth is that joy, like gratitude, is as much a practice as a feeling. We can cultivate it by slowing down enough to actually inhabit positive experiences rather than moving through them on autopilot. The practice of savoring, deliberately extending attention to positive experiences as they happen, and re-experiencing them through memory afterwards has been shown to significantly amplify and prolong positive emotional states. When something good happens, resist the urge to immediately move on. Pause, breathe it in, let it register fully. Awe, the emotion that arises when we encounter something vast, beautiful, or profoundly moving, deserves special mention. Research shows that experiences of awe reliably shift perspective, reduce self-focused thinking, increase generosity and pro-social behavior, and produce deep restorative feelings of calm and connection. Seek awe deliberately. Go to wild places. Stand under a sky full of stars. Listen to music that moves you to tears. Let yourself be genuinely astonished by the fact that you exist at all. Practice exercise. Begin a daily gratitude journal using the 3 specific things format described above. Commit to 30 days. At the end of the month, reread the entire journal and notice how your sense of what is good in your life has expanded. Chapter 10. Building emotional resilience. Resilience is often defined simply as the ability to bounce back from adversity. But this definition, while accurate, doesn't fully capture the richness of what genuine resilience involves. True resilience is not about returning to who you were before a difficult experience. It is about growing through the experience, developing capacities, perspectives, and strengths that you simply did not have before. This distinction matters because it reframes what adversity is for. The difficult chapters in your life are not interruptions to your development. They are often the most important accelerants of it. The question is not whether you will face hardship. You will. The question is whether you will emerge from it diminished or enlarged. The 5 pillars of emotional resilience. The first pillar is self-awareness. Resilient people know themselves, their emotional patterns, their triggers, their strengths, their deepest values. This self-knowledge is not paralyzing self-consciousness. It is a foundation of stable self-understanding that remains intact even when circumstances are turbulent. The second pillar is emotional regulation. The ability to manage intense emotional experiences without becoming overwhelmed or shutting down, the skills that form the core of this book, is perhaps the most direct contributor to resilience. Resilient people feel hard emotions deeply, but they are not undone by them. The third pillar is meaning-making. Resilient people have a remarkable ability to find meaning in difficult experiences. Not to trivialize their pain, but to understand it within a broader context of growth, purpose, or contribution. Viktor Frankl's work with Holocaust survivors demonstrated that those who could find meaning in their suffering, however terrible, were more likely to survive and to go on to live purposeful lives. The fourth pillar is connection. Resilience is not a solo endeavor. Human beings are wired for connection, and our ability to withstand adversity is dramatically enhanced by the quality of our relationships. People who have at least one genuinely supportive, trusted relationship show significantly greater resilience across virtually every adversity measure. Investing in deep relationships is not separate from building resilience. It is integral to it. The fifth pillar is proactive coping. Resilient people don't wait for adversity to develop the resources to face it. They cultivate emotional, relational, physical, and practical resources continuously, so that when difficulty arrives, they have a wealth of internal and external support to draw from. They build the inner architecture of resilience during the calm seasons, in preparation for the inevitable storms. Post-traumatic growth. One of the most remarkable findings in psychological research is the phenomenon of post-traumatic growth, the experience of positive psychological change that emerges from the struggle with highly challenging life circumstances. Researchers have documented that many people who survive significant trauma, loss, or crisis report not just recovery, but genuine growth in their relationships, their sense of personal strength, their spirituality, their appreciation for life, and their openness to new possibilities. Post-traumatic growth does not mean that the trauma was good or that the suffering was without cost. It means that human beings have an extraordinary capacity to transform even the most devastating experiences into catalysts for profound development. When they are supported to process those experiences fully, to make meaning from them, and to integrate them into a revised and often richer understanding of themselves and the world. The resilient identity. Perhaps the most powerful thing you can do for your long-term resilience is to develop what might be called a resilient identity. A deep, abiding story about yourself as someone who handles difficulty with resourcefulness, who grows through adversity, and who possesses the inner strength to navigate whatever life brings. This identity is not a fantasy or a performance. It is built gradually and authentically through every small experience of choosing courage over avoidance, through every instance of meeting a difficult emotion with skill rather than reaction, through every moment of emerging from hardship with new understanding. Each one of these moments is a deposit into the account of your resilient identity. And over time, that account becomes the bedrock upon which an unshakable relationship with your own life is built. Reflection. Exercise. Think of the most challenging experience you have navigated in your life. What did it teach you about yourself? What strengths did it develop? What do you now understand about life, relationships, or yourself that you could only have learned by going through it? Write this down as a story of growth, not a story of victimhood. Chapter 11. Emotional Mastery in Relationships. Our relationships are, simultaneously, our greatest arena for practicing emotional mastery and our greatest test of whether we have developed it. There is no other context in which our triggers are activated so reliably, our deepest patterns are so thoroughly exposed, or the stakes of our emotional choices are so immediately and profoundly felt. Every significant relationship in your life is a masterclass in emotional intelligence, if you are willing to learn from it. Emotional contagion and co-regulation. Human beings are extraordinarily sensitive to one another's emotional states. Through a process called emotional contagion, we unconsciously synchronize our emotions with the people around us, mimicking their facial expressions, body language, and vocal tones, and in doing so, coming to feel what they feel. This means that the emotional state you bring into a room, into a conversation, into a family dinner, into a work meeting, matters enormously. It travels. It affects others in ways neither party may consciously recognize. Taking responsibility for your emotional presence is not just about your own well-being. It is a form of care and leadership. Co-regulation is the partner process, the way in which a calm, regulated nervous system can help to soothe a dysregulated one. This is why the presence of a calm, attuned person is so powerful for someone who is emotionally overwhelmed. You cannot think your way into emotional regulation when you are in the grip of an amygdala hijack, but you can be helped there by the regulated presence of another person. Becoming someone whose emotional groundedness can help others find theirs is one of the highest expressions of emotional mastery. The 4 relationship destroyers. Relationship researcher John Gottman identified 4 communication patterns that reliably predict relationship breakdown across cultures and demographics. Understanding and eliminating these patterns from your relationships is among the most valuable things emotional mastery can do for your interpersonal life. Criticism attacks the character of the person rather than addressing the specific behavior that bothered you. It sounds like, "You always," or "You never," or "What's wrong with you?" Contempt is the most destructive of the 4. It communicates disgust and moral superiority through eye-rolling, sneering, sarcasm, or mockery. Defensiveness rejects responsibility and counterattacks rather than engaging genuinely with what is being raised. Stonewalling withdraws completely from interaction as a way of managing emotional overwhelm, but communicates indifference or rejection to the other person. Each of these patterns originates in unmanaged emotional states: frustration, resentment, hurt, and overwhelm. Emotional mastery does not just make you feel better, it directly improves the quality of your most important relationships by replacing these destructive patterns with their healthier counterparts. Emotional boundaries. Healthy boundaries in relationships are not walls. They are the clear, respectful communication of what you need, what you are and are not available for, and what matters most to you in how people treat you. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, and also a form of respect for the other person, because they give people the information they need to genuinely connect with you, rather than a version of you that is performing according to their expectations. People with poor emotional boundaries tend either to have none at all, absorbing others' emotions, sacrificing their own needs endlessly, and building quiet resentment. or to have rigid defensive walls that prevent genuine intimacy. The emotionally masterful person develops permeable, flexible boundaries that allow for real connection and genuine care, while clearly communicating the terms of that connection. Practice exercise. Identify one relationship in your life where your emotional patterns are most frequently triggered. Without judgment, observe for 1 week what triggers you, what you feel, and how you respond. At the end of the week, ask yourself, if I responded from my highest self rather than my most triggered self in this relationship, what would change? Chapter 12. Emotional Intelligence in Work and Leadership. The workplace is not exempt from the emotional life of human beings, though many workplace cultures have spent decades pretending otherwise. The myth of the purely rational professional, someone who checks their feelings at the door and operates according to pure logic and efficiency, has not only been disproven by decades of organizational psychology, it has been identified as actively harmful both to individual well-being and to organizational performance. Emotional intelligence is not soft. It is arguably the hardest and most impactful skill set in any professional context. Why EQ outperforms IQ in the workplace studies consistently show that while cognitive intelligence, IQ, is a reasonable predictor of professional performance at entry level, emotional intelligence, EQ, becomes increasingly predictive the more complex and senior the role. The reason is straightforward. The challenges of advanced professional life are almost entirely relational and adaptive. They require the ability to navigate ambiguity, motivate diverse people, manage conflict, communicate under pressure, maintain composure in crisis, inspire trust, and make nuanced decisions in complex emotional climates. None of these capacities is primarily cognitive. All of them require emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, unlike IQ, is highly trainable. The emotionally intelligent leader. Leaders with high emotional intelligence create fundamentally different organizational environments than those without it. They are aware of their own emotional states and how those states affect their decisions and their teams. They are attuned to the emotional climate of their organizations, able to read unspoken tensions and address them before they become crises. They inspire genuine engagement rather than compliance, because people feel seen and understood rather than merely managed. Perhaps most importantly, emotionally intelligent leaders model the emotional culture of their organizations. In any group, the emotional tone set by the most senior or most influential person tends to propagate throughout the system. A leader who manages stress with grace and curiosity creates permission for their team to do the same. A leader who meets setbacks with resilience rather than blame creates an environment where risk-taking and learning from failure become possible. Managing up, across, and down. Emotional intelligence in action. Emotional intelligence manifests differently depending on the direction of the relationship. Managing your relationship with authority, with bosses, senior stakeholders, or clients requires the ability to maintain your own emotional equilibrium under pressure, to communicate your perspectives and boundaries clearly and without defensiveness, and to manage the powerful feelings that hierarchical relationships inevitably activate: the desire for approval, the fear of failure, the frustration of limited authority. Lateral relationships, with peers and colleagues, call for the skills of empathy, collaboration, and constructive conflict. The ability to genuinely understand and care about a colleague's perspective, even when you strongly disagree. To address interpersonal friction directly and respectfully. And to contribute to shared goals without ego. These are all expressions of high emotional intelligence. Downward relationships, with those you supervise or mentor, require perhaps the most sophisticated emotional intelligence of all, because they carry the greatest potential for both harm and profound positive impact. The emotionally intelligent supervisor or mentor creates psychological safety, an environment in which people feel safe to take risks, voice concerns, make mistakes, and grow. This requires that the leader be consistently aware of and responsible for their own emotional state, because the emotional power differential means that a supervisor's irritable morning can legitimately affect a team member's entire week. Difficult conversations at work. One of the clearest tests of emotional intelligence in any professional context is the capacity to have difficult conversations skillfully, whether that means delivering challenging feedback, addressing a colleague's behavior, negotiating a conflict, or communicating unwelcome decisions. Most people avoid difficult conversations because they trigger a predictable emotional response. Anxiety about conflict, fear of damaging the relationship, discomfort with the other person's potential emotional reaction. Avoidance feels safer in the short term. In the long term, it allows problems to compound, relationships to quietly corrode, and resentment to build to a point where the eventual confrontation, when it can no longer be avoided, is far more explosive than an earlier skillful conversation would have been. The emotionally masterful professional learns to approach difficult conversations from a foundation of genuine curiosity and care. Curious about the other person's perspective, caring about both the relationship and the outcome. They prepare by managing their own emotional state first, so they can enter the conversation from regulation rather than reactivity. They speak from their own experience rather than their judgments of the other person. And they listen, genuinely, completely, not just waiting for their next turn to speak. Reflection. Exercise. Identify a difficult conversation you have been avoiding at work. Write down, what emotion is driving the avoidance? What is the actual cost of continued avoidance to the relationship and the situation? What outcome would you most want from the conversation? Then prepare for it using the principles in this chapter. Conclusion. The ongoing practice of emotional mastery. You have come a long way from the first page of this book. You now understand what emotions are, where they come from, why they behave the way they do, and how they can be mastered, not through suppression or denial, but through awareness, regulation, and intentional action. You have explored specific strategies for working with anger, fear, sadness, and positive emotions. You have begun to see how emotional mastery transforms not just your inner life, but your relationships, your work, and your sense of who you are. But here is the most important thing I can tell you at the close of this book. Emotional mastery is not a destination. It is not a certificate you earn after completing a course or a level you reach and maintain permanently. It is a practice, an ongoing, lifelong commitment to knowing yourself deeply, responding to your life consciously, and growing through everything that comes your way. There will be days when you are masterful, when you meet difficulty with grace, manage intensity with skill, and act from your deepest values even under pressure. There will also be days when you react before you think, when old patterns surface despite your best intentions, when the gap between the person you aspire to be and the person you were in that moment feels painfully wide. Both types of days are part of the practice. The falls are not failures, they are data. Every instance of reacting in a way you later regret is an opportunity for the practice of self-compassion, self-reflection, and a new resolution. Every moment of choosing differently, however small, is a deposit into the ongoing architecture of your emotional growth. The great Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire at the height of its complexity and wrote some of history's most insightful reflections on emotional self-mastery, returned to the same themes day after day in his private journal. The practice of choosing response over reaction, of maintaining equanimity in the face of uncertainty, of continually returning to his highest values when life pulled him away. Not because he had mastered these things once and for all, but because he understood, as you now understand, that they require daily renewal. Your emotions are your most intimate companions. They are the texture of your experience, the coloring of your perceptions, the force that connects you to yourself and to every other human being you will ever meet. Learning to live with them skillfully, to welcome them, understand them, work with them, and be neither dominated by them nor estranged from them, is perhaps the most human project there is. You are not finished with this work. You are just beginning. And that, if you can receive it, is cause for genuine excitement. The path continues. Keep walking it. Afterward, creating your personal emotional mastery plan. Knowledge without practice is inspiration without transformation. The following framework is designed to help you translate what you have learned in this book into a living, personalized practice that will grow with you over time. Step 1. Your emotional inventory. Begin by taking an honest inventory of your current emotional life. Which emotions do you experience most frequently and with most intensity? Which do you tend to avoid, suppress, or override? What are your most reliable triggers? Where in your body do you feel your most common emotional states? This inventory is your starting map. It will change and deepen as your self-awareness develops. Step 2. Identify your 3 priority skills. Rather than trying to work on everything at once, identify the 3 skills from this book that would have the greatest positive impact on your life right now. Perhaps it is learning to pause before reacting in anger. Perhaps it is developing a daily mindfulness practice. Perhaps it is learning to express vulnerability rather than leading with defensiveness. Choose 3 and make them the focus of your practice for the next 90 days. Step 3. Build your daily practices. Emotional mastery is built in the daily rituals. The small, consistent habits that gradually restructure your neural pathways and your relationship with yourself. A morning mindfulness practice, even 10 minutes long, provides a daily point of recalibration before the day's demands begin. An evening reflection, reviewing the day's emotional landscape with curiosity rather than judgment, builds the self-awareness that accelerates growth. A daily gratitude practice rewires the brain toward positivity and resilience. Start small. Choose 1 daily practice and do it consistently for 30 days before adding another. Consistency beats intensity every time. Step 4. Build your support system. You do not grow alone. Identify the people in your life who support your emotional development, who can speak honestly with you, who model the emotional qualities you aspire to, and who create the psychological safety for you to be genuinely yourself. If such people are not currently in your life, actively cultivate them through seeking community, therapy, coaching, or any context in which genuine emotional growth is supported. Step 5. Embrace the long game. Emotional mastery is not built in a month or a year. It is the work of a lifetime, and the return on that investment compounds with every year of practice. The person you will be in 10 years, if you commit fully to this work, is someone you would barely recognize today, not because they are different, but because they are more fully, authentically, powerfully themselves. That person is not a fantasy. They are you, in the future, having done the work. Begin now. Thank you for listening to How to Master Your Emotions at All Times. Every word in this book was written with the sincere intention of helping you live a more conscious, compassionate, and powerful life.